Alright, I'm going to show you how to thread and tap your Degas bottle on your 6-liter diesel to put a pressure transducer or a pressure sender in there to monitor your degas or cooling system pressure. This is actually my my old Degas bottle. It actually sprung a leak right down here, and so I used it first to practice and to make this hole. It actually worked really well the first time around, and then I went ahead and did it on my real Degas bottle. And I actually had a really awesome video made showing it, melting that hole, drilling it and tapping it for you guys, and that video got corrupted and I couldn't bring it back. So I'm just going to show you the basic idea here, and you guys can put together the pieces on your own. So what you're going to want to do is melt the hole. You don't want to drill it because you want as much plastic meat in there as possible so that you have a nice big threading surface so you get a better seal. Plastic is going to expand and contract at a different rate than metal, so this seal is going to be a weak point. And if you just drill it and tap it, you're only going to have like a 1/16 of an inch of plastic to work with there, and you're more likely to get a leak there. Whereas melting it, I've actually got a fair amount of plastic meat there. Almost a 1/4 inch all around of threading. I know that looks kind of shitty, but it actually was threaded really well. And I actually did a much better job on my real Degas bottle. So you're going to want a low temp soldering iron. I would not recommend using a high temp soldering iron or just some cheaper one. You want one that you can turn down to low. This one has a low setting for wood burning and plastic melting and that sort of thing. And I'm actually using a wood burning tip there. And you can see with the low temperature, I don't have all kinds of plastic deposits on there. If you use a high temp soldering iron, as soon as you enter that plastic, it's going to start boiling the plastic. It's going to start vaporizing, and you're going to start to get all kinds of burnt plastic on your soldering tip. So you want to use a low temp soldering iron. You could do it with a torch and like a little pick and just melt your way through there, but I strongly recommend a low temp soldering iron. I think you can even get a wood burning kit at Walmart that might be a low enough temperature. Otherwise, there are various kits for like vinyl repair and different things like that at your auto parts store, and the tip just screws in there. Basically all I did, I got it hot, I marked my hole here. As far as where you want to put it, there's a nice big flat area here. That's a good place to put it. It worked out really well. And what I was doing, I was going for this line here in the clear part. I figured that line might go up, and I was off a little bit. That line is actually right to the left of my hole here. So I'd recommend finding this line on your Degas bottle, the one that looks like it almost points up to the middle there. Go about a 1/4 of an inch to the left and mark your hole there. You want as much plastic meat in there as possible to drill that hole into. So if you can get it right on that seam, a little support line on the top of the Degas bottle there, you're going to be good. And I just marked a hole, and I took my soldering iron and melted it through there a little bit at a time. You want to be really careful and take your time. You're just going to melt through it. Go in, melt through, go in, melt a little bit. Just kind of work your way, ease into it. Once you get all the way through, then you're just going to pull it out, stick it back in, slowly enlarge the hole. It's going to take a good 10 minutes to get it nice and big. And you want that bead of plastic. You want it to kind of melt into the plastic around it, as well as the same thing on the back. So you're just going to slowly go around and around. Keep checking to make sure you're making a round hole. You want that hole to be as round as possible by melting. Okay, so you're just going to go, once you get it pretty close to the right size, get your 3/8 inch drill bit. Once your 3/8 inch drill bit is just barely too big to fit in there, go ahead and drill that hole out. Drill it to 3/8. Then you're going to take in your 1/8 inch tap. This is the same tap that you use to put like an EGT sensor into your exhaust manifold. It's the same for most sensors. Most sensors have a 1/8 inch NPT fitting. And you're going to let that plastic cool. Make sure it cools before you drill it or tap it. Let it cool, then you're just going to come right back in here and run that tap almost all the way in. You want to get probably to the last 1/8 inch of thread. because you want your pressure transducer or pressure gauge to thread in almost to the point of touching the degas bottle. If you only thread it in halfway, it's not going to thread in all the way. It's going to be too big. You're going to try to force it. It might crack the plastic. So go ahead and put this in like maybe 1/4 of an inch from the end of the threads. So that way it's not all the way through and you've still got a little bit of meat to work with. Go and thread in there. And then test fit your pressure transducer or your pressure sensor. You want to get to where it's nice and snug in there, then you should have a fairly nice threaded hole. Something like that. And that should be pretty good. Even though the plastic is expanding and contracting at a different rate at the middle, you got a nice amount of thread there, and we're going to seal it too. I just used Motorcraft Ultra silicone sealant. That's basically Motorcraft's version of Ultra Black. Ultra Black will be just fine. Spread it all over the threads of your transducer. Here's an example. This is my old fuel pressure gauge, and it's got a 1/8 inch male NPT on the outside, and I just ran a hose whip on it. You're going to spread your sealant all over the end of your pressure transducer, and you're going to thread it in there. Thread it in there, and you should end up with a nice speed of sealant that goes over the speed of plastic there. That sealant plus the sealant on the threads plus being a nice friction and resistance fit should hold up for a nice long time. So far I don't have any leaks. I'll tell you after I tow a couple trailers up some big ass hills, but I'm pretty happy with all that meat that I've got. Should be pretty good. So be sure to check out the full video on actual setting up the pressure gauge for your cooling system. This one's just on making and threading that hole.